You are listening to Same Sex Dialogue. This is Kim Style. This is episode 20. No, I'm bisexual. You are confused. Here we go.
Are you ready? Sit down and turn off the TV because it's time for the Same Sex Dialogue podcast, where you'll hear the most entertaining discussions about gay topics, current events, and news. We bring you the very best of the LGBT community and its supporters. And guess what? Today we have a special guest just for you. Now here are your hosts, K-Town, and the super sexy fashionista herself, Kim Style.
Hey, it's Kim Style. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Boy, we have a good one tonight. It's the B in LGBTQ. We're talking to Kevin Hogan tonight. I'm so excited about him.
I'm excited too because we've been talking to Kevin for the past, several weeks, and finally getting to have him on our show. We're supposed to have him last week, but there was some things that came up that we couldn't help, so we had to reschedule, and we're going to be bringing that interview to everybody right now.
Yay!
You're so crazy, We've had a great week, actually. Probably the most productive week we've had since we've been podcasting. We've actually got 4 shows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we did this through my not being able to breathe. Last night, thank God you force-fed me Mucinex, and I can breathe today.
I know. I told you to take that earlier. You would not listen to me.
I hate the way it's dehydrating, and it's not good for my skin. So.
I didn't know it was dehydrating, honey. But at least when I came in yesterday, you literally could not breathe out of your nose at all.
I was in tears.
I
was basically crying.
I know, honey. I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to get Mucinex.
It helped.
Yeah,
oh
Mucinex. Well, it should. I mean, it costs enough, but it's it's the real deal. It'll help you. So, and I'm glad you feel better today.
I do.
We are having. I'll go ahead and get the announcements out the way. We are having Ernie Hoskins on the show on the 26th at 7:00. Hope you guys tune in for that show. He is advocating for health in the LGBT community. And we will be having Kelly Absher, who is, Kim, you've known him for a very long time. March 4th at 6:00. And both of these guys are from Knoxville. So, hey, we are very, very glad to have them on the show. Then we're trying to line up someone else on the show that Kim has found.
Oh, my gosh.
She's funny.
I want the Tupperware drag queen. Oh, my gosh.
I cannot believe that character is based off of someone in Tennessee, or that character. It's so funny. But if you guys haven't seen the Tupperware drag queen, it's funny. YouTube videos, right? Are available.
The first time I ever saw her do a Tupperware party was on the Orange County Housewives. Oh, imagine that. Gretchen had her come to her place.
Oh,
and
really?
they had that around, or a drag queen. I don't know if it's her specifically, but I guess that's the thing now. Drag queens are making bank. I mean,
selling Tupperware?
Yes.
Wow. Well,
because it's so entertaining.
Right, absolutely.
To these housewives.
She's very entertaining and funny, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because all those women were loving her.
Well, the one that I'm wanting to get was number 1 sales in Tupperware for 4 years straight.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm working on that. Anything for you, honey?
I don't ask for much. I don't think
anything for you. But like I said before, next week we are hoping to go ahead and have a March calendar, ready, and so you can find out more information on our website at samesexdialogue.com. And you can tweet us if you would like at samesexdialogue.com. So we do look at our Twitter feed quite a bit and like us on Facebook as well.
And
Same Sex Dialogue.
Please, please, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review.
Yes.
That's going to keep us going here, guys.
Absolutely. And let's see. What have you been doing today?
Well, this is funny. Funny, true story. I've been with our son all day, and he's been, grounded from technology. So we've been playing Jenga and Uno. Well, sometimes I can let him win Uno. I can withhold, draw 4s and draw 2s and let him win. But with Jenga, I can't let him win. I've won 4 games. I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh. I try to let him win.
Babe, are you serious?
I try to let him win, but you can't. There's nothing.
I know there's nothing you can really do.
Jenga. You can't cheat at Jenga.
I know, but at least he keeps trying. Last night he said, Mom, is Jenga a technology? I said, no, it's not technology. She just said, stay away from all technology. So
I'm so good at Jenga now. I think I should have been an architect.
Is that a challenge?
I think I should have been.
I'm going to have to.
No, I am the champ.
You really are. The way we actually had that Jenga set up that
like
one time,
3 feet tall. I'm loving playing. I'm like, anybody want to play Jenga?
I said, leave it for the next day. Let's keep going because it was amazing how it looked. I mean, it was crazy. So yeah, we do have a lot of fun with Jenga. What else you been doing today, honey?
Nothing, just playing with Ari and just having a good time. And I cooked a big old meal, of course.
You did? Okay. I see you've been on Facebook quite a bit today.
Yeah, I got on there a little bit. Reached out to some old friends, Ariel. I haven't seen her in a while.
I know. I like Ariel.
Yeah.
And who else? We're going to have to call Bridget and Christina and see what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, we need to get together. I need to cook them some good food.
Yeah. Cook me some more good food.
I cook you good food every day.
Let's see here. Oh, what about watching Atlanta Housewives getting so juicy? You know,
I don't watch them. That's my evil twin.
You know what? I'll tell you what I'm really loving right now. I love how they brought let Nene crash the party. She crashed the party and
because Kenya ain't happy.
Yeah. Oh no, she's not happy at all. And really, Cynthia, I wish she just had a backbone, honestly. Because she, you know how she was so pro Kenya at first, but she knows how Nene is. She doesn't like to share her friends. You know what I mean? So
that is so
it's just
juvenile.
It is. It's very juvenile. And they put up with it. But
you only have one friend at a time. And so can you. That's what happens when you're like 12 years old.
This is good, though. I mean, I love seeing them, arguing and stuff over that. So it's funny, and it's better now that she's on the show. Right? So, what else? Well, I'll say this. Before we get into this interview with Kevin Hogan, we are going to be having, I'm still keeping tabs and talking to Janet Mock's manager. Yeah. And as soon as she is available, she's working on a new book. We will have her on the show. Also, I would love to get, there's another LGBTQ activist who has done a lot of work for, HIV. He is based out of Los Angeles. He actually lives in Indiana now, and I would like to get him on the show. We're trying to line up the best in the LGBTQ community. If you guys have any suggestions of someone you'd like for us to try and reach out to and have them on the show, you're more than welcome to do that. You can email us at podcast@samesexdialogue.com for that. Anything else maybe you'd like to say before we get to this interview with Kevin?
Just an email.
Oh,
from Austin.
Okay. All right, my bad. Right. Go ahead.
What inspired you to do a podcast? Keep up the good work. By the way, did you see there's a new petite Barbie? Well, that's kind of random. Austin. Oh,
what?
Because I'm petite. He probably said that. I bet that
Really?
Barbie looks just like me.
A new petite Barbie.
That makes me happy.
Is he just
I must have
pulling
her.
our leg, or is that a...
Actually, I did see that on the news.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What was...
There's a
was
plus
the other
size.
one plus size?
There's a plus size, and there's a curvy Barbie and a petite Barbie.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
That's
I wonder
a
if her name's
change.
Kim Style.
You're so crazy. You know it. What else did he say? Why did we start?
Wanted to know why we started a podcast for the LGBTQ community.
Well, we really didn't start out to do that. We started out just to have fun and laugh a lot.
Yeah.
But it's gravitated towards that as we've went along. I mean, we do realize there's a lot of important issues.
Yeah, and we're trying to cover all the issues that people are asking us about, tweeting us about. And we still want to have fun, but cover some more serious issues.
Absolutely. And it's actually been an honor to do that, to use what we have, use our platform for that purpose. So, yeah, I mean, that's why we done it. I mean, we're having fun doing it. I don't see us not doing it anytime soon. We're going to keep doing it, and we're meeting a lot of interesting, a lot of nice people along the way. So.
And not only is it fun, it's educating.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I have my face in the internet trying to get all this information and questions.
And learn about different things. Yes, we have.
And I'm actually loving learning about it.
Yes, I have too. So to answer your question, we didn't start out that way. It just ended up being that way.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness. And we've met some great people. Peterson, Kevin Hogan.
Talked to Peter Tatchell.
Oh my
Amazing
gosh.
interview with him. We talked to him from London. That show I just released tonight, as a matter of fact.
Episode 19.
He's a great guy. You will not believe some of the things that he's been through.
We're not done with him. We have to have him back on.
Yeah. He's been an activist for over 45 years. So we couldn't possibly get all of that in that time frame. I think it's the show with him is probably about an hour long, but we will have him back on the show to talk about the confrontation he had with Mike Tyson back in the day.
Yeah, because we didn't even get to talk about that.
We didn't get to talk about that. It's just all kinds of things that he's done, but this man is absolutely fearless. You talking about stepping on toes? I was telling you, I said he jumped in an 18-wheeler and ran over him.
We really could be possibly stepping on some toes with what we're doing.
This man
mows over the whole body. And their house, and their family, and their ancestors.
He's amazing. He really is. I mean, he is. Honestly, he's a genuine person.
Absolutely.
And everything he does, I believe he does out of love and passion.
That's what he
for
said.
People. You know what I mean?
He said it was because he loves people.
Yes. Because he doesn't get paid a lot. I don't even think he ever gets paid for being an activist. He makes his income some other way, but for him to put himself through all that, it has to be driven by love. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So anyway, guys, we're going to be bringing that interview with Kevin Hogan to you now. We hope you enjoy it. And here it goes.
Kevin Hogan is an author, poet, and LGBTQ activist. For the past 3 years, he has served on the board of directors of the Bisexual Resource Center, the oldest bi-specific organization in the United States. In September 2013, he was amongst the select group of leaders invited to the White House for a historic first meeting with the Obama administration on matters of bisexual health, inclusivity, and awareness. Last year, he was invited back to the White House for the Bisexual Community Policy Briefing on September 21, 2015, a meeting that coincided with Bisexual Awareness Week. He's currently working on the self-help book, Healing Stigma, a survivor's guide to repairing identity in the internet age.
All right, so we got Kevin Hogan with us today. How you doing, Kevin?
Oh, I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much. Happy Friday.
Hey, happy Friday to you too. Happy Friday to you too. So we want you to know that we did catch some of your show last night. Are you stoked about having that?
Oh, that was just unbelievable. What a way to start that off. So big, huge thanks to Rachel Griffin, Scott Fullerton, those who have listened to it. If you haven't, you can go check it out now. It's just you go to healingstigmaradio.com, and it literally, you just see it. You'll click on there, and it starts playing, I think, automatically.
That's awesome.
What a great time. What a great time.
Yeah, good for you.
That is great, and
Yay.
we're very, very proud of you. You did great last night.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much. I was, it's just, it really, I can honestly say this, the time flew by, and that's the best compliment I can say. It really, really flew by. There was so much that I just think it was a lot of fun, and it's a great conversation to have.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, and we're so happy that you took the time to talk to our audience about healing stigma and the things that you have been subjected to in your life, and we hope that our questions, keep you on your toes, but we really put a lot of thought into this, so I want you to know that.
Something tells me we can't put him
ready.
on his toes. Hey, Kevin, today we talked to Peter Thatchell, and we asked him what his final thought was, about global issues in the LGBT community.
Yes,
and you know what he said? He said, I think the bisexual issue needs to be addressed. And I said, well, really? I said, we're going to be talking to Kevin Hogan tonight, and he's bisexual, and
he has Healing Stigma, and we told him about your website, and he said to give you his best.
Yes, he did.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I will definitely shout back again for bringing up the bisexual issue. I think it's wonderful. So thank you so much, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about what is going on, and there's a lot of work naturally needs to be done. But yeah, the B is here, and as I said, so many communities that are dealing with issues, or as emerging communities, they feel what's going on in the rest of the rainbow community and beyond. And boy, stigma is one of those. It's one of those points where once you've been stigmatized, and it happens in so many different ways to so many different people, and for me, coming through the ringer, let's say, and surviving it and being able to share that, there's a certain sensitivity you build up to it that makes you, it either makes you a better person or it breaks you. So you have to help it make you a better person.
Absolutely. So can you tell our audience about yourself?
Sure. I'd say for the thing that they'd probably most be interested in is, let's take a person on the outside that would look your average high school English teacher for decades, and married, and suddenly one day a news crew follows him, and I can't make this one up even though I'm a writer, it's really true, follows him while his wife and him are picking up their Thanksgiving turkey, and the news crew puts the lights on, and suddenly you're the front page or evening news to over 1 million viewers in one news cycle, and they bring up the fact that you had done gay porn in your past, and so you're labeled you're labeled the porn star teacher. Now, we know this is a number of things going on. Number one, why follow the teacher with his wife when you know that this person, or believe that the information you have, had done gay porn? So there's a whole bunch of issues that this brought up when this happened. And basically, when your life is changed overnight because of that, no one, I don't think, is prepared for that kind of internet stigma that follows, because it's not just the story, it's everything else that happens after that.
Right.
And as I said, just to say this, honestly, the Healing Stigma program, it's now been 4 years since this happened, and I'll get to the end of that story or how it's working out, but I wish this program was around when it happened to me, because as I say to people, I often use the metaphor, it's like teaching senior life saving, how to jump in a pool and save someone if they don't know how to swim. And the worst thing in the world when it happened to me is many, many dear people that love me and wanted to help, the initial reaction was almost like getting a big bear hug while you're drowning in a very deep pool. And so that doesn't help much. And so the Healing Stigma program is based upon what I went through with Dr. Galatzer-Levy out of the University of Chicago. He's got 40 years of incredible experiences in what happens to people who are stigmatized. And when I came across this, and as I said, as an educator, then no longer educating after this happened, I did realize I had a lesson. And the lesson was, what do you do? How do you come through this? And one of the big things that came out then is the first community that really reached out in many ways was the fact that it came out on the news cycle that I was a number of things. Number one, people argued about this, and at that point, obviously, I couldn't say anything or do anything. You're dealing with, basically finding out what, oftentimes you're taking legal counsel and figuring out what you need to do because you just have to make sure you do the right thing, let's say. Right. And for me, it was the fact that people were arguing, is he gay? Did he lie to his wife? And very few people thought, maybe he's bisexual. And just on, tough times and took some, work in the adult industry to keep his family off the street.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing in all of this, the bisexual community was so understanding in so many ways that by this, if you will, lemon being dumped on me, number one, I found the bisexual community, became a bisexual leader after realizing how many from youth to bisexual elders, what the rates were of suicide, abuse, homelessness, and naturally how this affects the whole entire rainbow community. But after that as well, I also found my other lemonade, which was I started writing poetry. And so when all of that came together and I realized there was something in this as a program, that's also where Healing Stigma came from. But it was surreal. It was absolutely surreal, and I don't know how you could prepare for something like that. But, yeah, you either get through it or it crushes you, one or the other.
I want to ask you this. Did you know early on that you were bisexual?
I think so. I don't know in terms of expressing it or living it, and I would say certainly later in my life when this happened, I had no idea about a community that was so, how should I say, so understanding. I really did not understand the bisexual community as a community that was so diverse, so many different people come to it from so many different walks and so much different interest. I didn't find that community until this happened. So here's the other thing. I have traveled, even though I introduced myself when I first went to Washington as a bisexual leader, as a Boston Birish. And so basically I'm like this, in many ways, a traditional Boston American Irish Catholic kid brought up, but with very, in many ways, free, a good education, and also from the city, as I say, that we come up with ways of putting a scarlet letter on people in the land of Nathaniel Hawthorne, but we also have very incredible arguments, free thinking, and incredible education here that produces legislation that pushes things like same-sex marriage and transgender rights. So there's a lot of dichotomy here. And now I'm back, but I've traveled and I've lived outside of the United States as well. And even though I'm an American and proud to be an American, for me, the whole idea of labeling one sexuality, I had the opportunity to really live in, I think in many ways, think maybe more European in a way. That's not really a good way, but to think in a way that doesn't think first of labeling oneself, but just being around people that were comfortable and supportive of you. When I returned to America and then this happened, I realized how much in our communities that labels sometimes are a way of finding one's like community. But if labels are restrictive, they can also be bad. So, it's a double-edged sword. For me, finding the bisexual community after this happened is still one of the greatest experiences. It really is.
Okay. And Kevin, you're married, and you're bisexual. Your wife is also bisexual. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure there's
I even wrote about it. I wrote about it in the Huffington Post. There's an article in the Huffington Post.
We'll have to read that. But that probably doubles the stigma over you guys. I mean, with people, these are things that I've read. People think you're swingers. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. And define bisexuality in your own words. How would you define it?
Absolutely not. Even if it was my last word, I would not try to define bisexuality. Many have tried before, and that's been their last words, and then it's horrible. No, here's the deal. No, I'm so glad you brought it up, because I do want to tell this story, because I think you guys, this is the place where I really want to share it, because I love the fact that when you guys got in touch with me, you said, I want to learn about this. I want to have this conversation. So here's the thing for me that is so important. There's a dear friend of mine, Ellen Ruthstrom. She's now the executive director of Speak Out Boston. You can look at it. It's one of the most respected LGBT speaking, agencies, reach outs for getting people, heard and stories heard, so that there's understanding. I love what she does. But she was, at the time that this happened to me, when again, about 4.5 years ago now, when my experience happened, and I reached out and was, really interested in finding out what the bisexual community was about locally in Boston, I happened to find a quote by Ellen Rustom in the New York Times, and found out that she was the president of the Bisexual Resource Center. Now, the BRC, as it's called, is the nation's first bi-specific organization. There's many others and great ones, but just happens that BRC, we just had our 30th anniversary, and we're going strong now. Full cards on table. I'm now on the board of directors. But at the time, Ellen was the president of the BRC, and I got this quote, and I'm going to mash it up terribly, but in the New York Times, they quoted her to do the same thing. They said, basically, what is bisexuality? Define it. You're at the BRC. Come on now. We got you up against the wall. We need a definition, and we got a news story. We got a deadline. Uh-huh. And she said, no. She says, what I love about bisexuality is it means so many different things to so many different people. And when that kind of word, that kind of label can produce so much understanding across so many different ways. I mean, yes, I happen to be a married bisexual. There are people who are bisexual who are married to someone who is not bisexual. There are people who are bisexual, happen to be in polyamorous relationships. I wrote another article about that. Again, that can be as you say, a double stigma if not treated right, or if not, addressed in a caring, loving way. But these people are, right. And that's the whole thing. So, for me, bisexual is part of who I am. The ability for me to look at people straight in the face and say, Kinsey didn't invent a switch, it's a scale.
Right.
Okay? Where you happen to be on it, you may call yourself different things. For me, I happen to be very happy to be a bisexual, to be a male bisexual. I happen to be a married bisexual. And I also happen to be married to a woman who is bisexual, and we understand how oftentimes, I come from the part that is the least in our community, in the LGBT community, the least out, the most closeted still are male bisexuals that the numbers would indicate. And yet at the same time, I happen to be married to a lovely woman who oftentimes we know can be fetishized, because how many men say they want to have a bisexual wife but don't understand what that means?
Absolutely.
Especially from, So in all these different ways, I'm so happy to have conversations now that, whatever happened from this, the lemonade is being, has to be made. It's one of those things. And these conversations, they've allowed me to have these great experiences, continue to look at our community and say, we may have a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of good work being done by people who break the stigma by being, in a dedicated relationship, a bisexual parent. Here's one. It's not from Bisexual, but I'm going to be pushing the show as well for Healing Stigma. The next guest we're going to have, Rob Watson, I think is so exciting, from one of the authors of the Good Men Project. His voice of being this single gay dad, this gay father who has this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful voice in his articles is just a great way, I think, again, of challenging stigma.
Right, absolutely, and. Yeah. I want to ask you this. I think a lot of people have trouble wrapping their mind around what if bisexuals can be faithful to one gender, or you're with a woman. Do bisexuals suppress the need to be with the same sex?
If you're married to
the opposite sex.
I think here's the thing. I couldn't answer that any more than saying, is someone in a straight marriage, let's say, do they repress the need to be with another woman or man if their relationship is either not granting them what they want. Here's the crazy thing. I wish there was some really exciting answer to this, but I also think it's very different for different people, first of all. And relationships are always unique. And when relationships last, everyone wants to know what the secret is. As I said, I wrote about it for us. For my wife and I, I think it comes down to really, really great communication. I think it comes down to understanding, what our turn-ons are. And I think it's really great that, as I say to people, I say, yeah, we have, maybe double the amount of turn-ons, but then there can also be double the amount of miscommunications if you're not communicating. Who's with who and when and all that other things becomes secondary if you're not doing things behind each other's backs, or, basically not being honest is the worst thing of them all. There was another quote I'll go to from the Poly article. Authentic Paint was one of the bisexual polyamorous wonderful, wonderful lady that I interviewed. She said, after many years of trying to come down with labels and rules for being poly, it comes down to really two words: be considerate.
Well, you know what, Kevin? You just confirmed something that I told K-Town when we were discussing this over the last week or so. I said, when we come up to this specific question, I said, well, when I met you, you were dating probably 17,000 different women. But you fell in love with me, and so therefore your love and attraction is for me, and you have forgotten all those 17,000 women that you were dating. It's the same concept, but people look at bisexuals differently. They think, I wrote down so many different stigmas, and I'm sure I haven't even, skimmed the surface of how many things that you all hear and have to maybe defend when someone says, you probably hear everybody's bisexual, or bisexuals can never be happy, or they're greedy, or they're horny. Or
do you believe that everybody's bisexual in some degree?
Are you asking me? Or you?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Now you're asking me.
I'm asking you.
Here's my feeling on this. At times, I think when I read about it and I find out more, and there's this, I think there's a much larger amount of bisexuality that is being. See, I don't know if there's more of it. I don't know if people are more used to entering surveys into phones or whenever they're asked. Because I'm not knocking on the younger generation, but I can't believe how much information people will give up on things. But now, for good information, you still have to, get through that and find good surveys. And one of the things I love is the fact that the younger folks coming up, and I know a lot of them in terms of doing research, are really finding out and telling a lot more about, how they label themselves, let's say. And I do believe there's a much larger group of bisexuality that is now being, reported, recorded, however you want to say, as better records are being kept on
right.
What as the questions are being asked. I can tell you so many times there would be, say, research that I've seen in the past that would say, this is an LGBT survey. And going forward from here, all women surveyed will be referred to as lesbians.
Right.
Now, what that does to bisexual women who took that survey, do you understand? That's called bi-erasure. Now, that's not a knock against the lesbian community, but that happens. And then it would be like, for all men that took this survey, they will be, referred to as gay. And then suddenly, everyone who was bisexual, they're not even there. They're there, but they've been absorbed by one or the other. And that makes you feel like, oh, what you've been told is you just haven't made up your mind or picked a team.
Yes.
You're on the fence. So that's where it starts. That's where it starts, from within the team. So this, if you will, I don't mean to pick it apart, but actually getting better statistics on these things and understanding what it means for the different parts of the community has actually shown, I do think, that there is an increase in the amount of bi identity, as being bi is a more positive thing and less of a stigma. I mean, one of the reasons why I love doing what I'm doing in doing it is because I think people understand I really enjoy what I'm doing, helping people now. There's a secret peer-to-peer support group through the Healing Stigma website. This isn't the radio one. This is, if you go on www.healingstigma.com, take a look around. You can look on services. But more importantly, if you need help as a person who's being stigmatized, we have a group there as well. So I enjoy doing this because I consider it an honor. I had a couple of students show up years and years. I hadn't seen them for 20 years. They showed up at one of my poetry readings, and they're so wonderful. These ladies are so wonderful now. all grown up, and one of them just turns her head to the side and says, yeah, she goes, I get it. She goes, you just have a much more important lesson now in the world as your classroom. She goes, you're not teaching frost anymore. You're teaching how to survive.
Absolutely.
And she goes, we all get stigmatized. You know, I mean, they're humorous. She goes, we all get stigmatized at some point in our lives, and especially on the internet. She goes, what happened to you? You know, and people wrote out in my defense when this happened on the internet. I have to say this, it wasn't, you know, I didn't have anything to do with that swell of support, and I was semi-conscious of it because it's almost like you're going through. Well, let's put it this way. Terrible. I don't mean to bring the audience down on a Friday night, but a person who was a victim or, I don't know, the subject of another undercover report on the same, literally same channel a little bit earlier, maybe a month or so earlier, people were all talking about it all over town. When it happened to me was this gentleman was I believe, a law enforcement officer who was retired and somehow was, whatever, doing something with an extra pension. It wasn't violent. It wasn't anything like that. But the poor man was, you know, somehow alone when this news hit, or when a news crew, again, made him feel stigmatized. He went up to a cabin somewhere and put a bullet through his head.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, so they were following, you know, in some ways you get the sense everyone's following you around, waiting to see what are you going to do now that you're stigmatized. So when I swore, you know, with the support that I had, with the idea that the bisexual community is so open and loving and understands, how should I say, it can be not so much a label, but a community, a way of coming together and finding out what does this mean. And as far as I can tell you, it still means more to the people I respect every day. So instead of a label, it's more of a welcoming, if you will. It's more of a welcome home sign to me. When I hear the word bisexual, I see the tricolors of our flag. I see some of the most lovely people I've ever met in my life. And I also see some of the greatest leaders and creators, because these people have deep, deep emotions as well. And oftentimes, because they've been stigmatized, we come out the ringer. Those that have made something of it and try to encourage and be that voice. That's a really positive community.
Yeah.
You know, and we know that through the whole rainbow community. The survival stories are amazing, and they need to get out there more. That's why you guys, I think it's so lovely to have me on. That's why when I do the radio program on Healing Stigma, it's not a job. It's the most fun I have.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Absolutely.
You brought up the whole rainbow community, and we've done interviews with some transgenders, and they were telling us about how they are secluded from the gay community. Say they're more accepted in a straight bar versus a gay bar. Do you personally, as a bisexual, experience any of the seclusion in our own community?
Okay, well, you got to remember, I'm mostly a writer, so I practice self-seclusion.
Okay. Gotcha.
I have 2 dogs that are my life insurance policy, because if I didn't need to get up and away from the keyboard every now and then, because when I start to write on something and I'm researching or whatever, you know, it's just amazing. So I probably am not the best person to talk about any bars, except for the fact that I will tell you this, and this is absolutely truthful. I have had the chance now, even something as, you know, I've seen pride marches in Europe, and I've seen, you know, pride marches here in Boston. And I absolutely think that there is such an incredible, powerful movement going on here for the transgender community. Some of the transgender stories that I've heard, some of the transgender people that I've spoken to and met, have been through something that is so, and are going through something that is so powerful that to reduce, and here's the thing for me, the touchstone for me more than anything else, because I am not going through that particular, you know, haven't been through that, but I understand a certain amount of stigma. The thing for me is, I find it so horrible when not just politicians, but people known language can turn something as important as what really is human rights, the ability to use a restroom, into something that is called a bathroom bill.
Right.
So what we do is we make it sound horrible in language before we even get to the T. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so people are afraid oftentimes to ask questions, find out whatever it is, because language is stigma. Remember this, no one is born with stigma.
Absolutely.
All right? Society assigns stigma, either to an individual or to a group. And when you turn a really powerful legislature that I think is about human rights into something that is called a bathroom bill, you are stigmatizing a whole group of people, and that is wrong. And that's what language does oftentimes before people ever get the information, understand what it's about, is language can be, that in other words, the stigma can prevent education and understanding. If we destigmatize, first of all, in our rainbow, we understand it. We know it. We understand what stigma is. As we understand how to destigmatize, people will also get better information and understand, I think. I still have a lot of faith that people can always learn, but if stigma gets in the way, it blinds you.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, Kevin, from what I have learned in the last couple of weeks, from reading all the different stigma and the things people say about in regards to bisexuals, really they're total opposite of the stigma. They are very more into someone's mind and heart versus their, greedy and horny, which I hate that, and that's not my choice of words, but that's really what I saw. I mean, it's such as yourself, you're more attracted to someone's mind versus
the sex, really, or their sexual.
I'm sure the sex is great.
Well, their gender.
But
when the chemistry works, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
When the chemistry works, it's extremely powerful. Now, for me, it is one of those things that I think it really is it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift. And it's a shame that anyone would be given a gift and then made by the group to feel that gift is in some ways dirty or shameful, because it's just another way that people have, if it, as a sexual orientation, or as, when you're comfortable in your gender, finding that is a true gift. And that journey along the way, when people learn and find themselves and are encouraged to express themselves, remember this, it's good for the community. I don't think the kind of, let's put it this way, how long ago, it's just incredible for me. See, my parents were most of my friends' grandparents' ages. I wasn't supposed to even be born. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was the only child born to a Boston Irish Catholic mother told she wasn't going to be able to conceive.
Oh.
All right, and then I came along after they were married for well more than a decade. Uh-huh. Total surprise. All right, never supposed to happen. And so I was raised, in some ways, by I was granted an education, the ability to think and find out and figure out what life was going to be. If I didn't read the paper, I couldn't have an opinion at the breakfast table. But if you read the paper, you could have an opinion.
Okay.
That sounds like my dad.
All right, so you get this. But the incredible thing for me in all of this was, as I've gone forward, been able to travel, been able to see now, I think, where we are in our, the how should I say, our community. When I think of, even, this is something we didn't touch on, but I think of it, the amount of murders in the transgender community, especially for the youth. The statistics now, we have them. We see it. We understand homelessness in the LGBT community.
Yeah.
We're seeing it. We're seeing how huge this is. And again, oftentimes it is, a label is stuck on, stigma, it then rips someone's identity away, which then we want to know, and even here right now, as you said, Kim, you say, look, you're not the label, or, thank God you said I'm not the label. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wow, you're right. But the crazy thing is, if we just have the labels, if we just live with the stigmas, we don't go out and have the conversations, then we miss these things. In the meantime, as the stigma sticks, because there's a lot of things out there and I see wonderful work being done talking about ending stigma, stopping stigma. But what I'm talking about is helping people who are stigmatized right now. And in our own community, as we, so wonderful, on the same-sex dialogue, you guys having on a bisexual leader to talk about my experience and what has happened, so that someone now spreads it around, says, hey, you know what, if someone's being stigmatized in any of our community, go check out Kevin's site. Find out what's going on. Let's get a voice to this. Let's make sure that we correct this. And also, for those that are challenging stigma, let's make sure they get a voice, because I'm also really sick of turning on, I don't mean to knock the news, but when it's just negative, Rachel said this wonderful, because her show, for you guys, if you listen to it, is about mental health awareness. and how she challenges dealing with mental illness and all the rest, and her creativity. I mean, she's a Broadway lyricist. She's a wonderful writer. She's a composer. This is amazing. And as a woman who's been through all of this, to write about it, oftentimes something people don't want to know about or embarrass, she puts it right out there. All right?
I did see that on your Facebook. I saw it on your Facebook today. But go ahead. Yeah.
She said, I write about it because I didn't see people with mental illness like me when I looked, in the arts, when I looked around. I saw people with mental illness that were either, I think she said, and these were her words. She was talking about the stigma. She said they were either kooks or like fruitcakes. They were total clowns. Mm-hmm. That was it. She's like, they were either kooks or they were clowns. And she said, I didn't see anyone intelligent working, through their mental illness and really being productive. And she says, that's why I do what I do. And so we hit it off because I followed her right away when I started the Healing Stigma. I said, I love what she does because for me, oftentimes I don't see bisexuals more and more it's happening, but oftentimes the first thing you see is the stigma. And so challenging that is part of making sure that there are role models, that all of these things get out there. But you know what? The younger generation is so smart. They're figuring it out anyway because, they're already answering on surveys and figuring out there's a lot more of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. They know by pure numbers that they exist as well. But remember this, and this is where I just give that warning, is this is where we also have to understand how important social media is and how harmful it can be, because what they're dealing with in terms of cyberbullying is also the other side of growing up with that much being exposed. I mean, I didn't grow up in Facebook. I understand what happened later in my life and understand media and study it now, but I didn't grow up with it. But they're growing up, oftentimes you're now having someone who's going to have everything from, their first feeding on their baby monitor is going to be downloaded on data until the very end of their life.
Right.
Absolutely. I want you.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin, you talked early on about how you were basically ambushed by a news crew, you and your wife, and, we don't know the capacity at which it affected your life and your mindset. So can you take us through that and how you actually begin to heal and get better from that experience?
Sure. Great question. It's almost like I have to go as a poet probably first, I'd say, as a little bit of a metaphor. It's like you're walking. It doesn't matter how many people you're around. It's just an average day, maybe out in the field. And suddenly you fall down what was an unmarked well, and no one notices. And, at first you're waiting for everybody to come back. And, for me, that well, by the way, was for both myself and my wife.
Uh-huh.
So we both fell down that well. But that's what it feels like. And what happens, I think, for me personally at that point, I had some, just for people, for your audience to understand, my wife and I were together when I chose to get some, again, legal work in the adult industry to make ends meet, to make sure that we didn't go on the street, that, it was a time when I was exploring writing and, trying to be a professional writer at times. We were, doing everything we could. But, boy, I tell you, that can be challenging. And I was brought up not to do things illegal, and it was very important for me to do something, that was above board. That was our choice, and I stand by it, to do something that was, as I said at the time, how can I almost say it, so open and honest that it was the last thing they probably expected by following, this is later when a news crew follows me when I'm teaching.
Uh-huh.
Now, the other thing I think that's important in this is the fact that my wife is also bisexual, the fact that I'm bisexual, that we're out to each other, we understood this. It's not what they would expect. It's not the salaciousness of it. But because I was an educator, it has that whole horrible thing to it. Oh, my God, this is a high school teacher. What happened? How did we miss this? Well, the incredible side to this was I'd already been a teacher for a long time, and by taking a break to explore writing or whatever, what they had done at the end of it was created this incredible thing. I was never fired, and yet at the same time, imagine showing up for an interview, and nowadays people, hiring managers, they'll say, tell me about your presence on social media. So imagine right after something like that. I had my degree. I had my master's degree in English. I had taught English for many, many years. I'd also written and explored other things, But when you look at that, and that's there, and that's gone out into the news cycle, and everyone has written their thoughts on this, let's say. It's also the fact that your career goes down that well hole with you, and this is part of stigma. So stigma oftentimes cuts you off from your family, oftentimes cuts you off from your job, and other things that basically add up to what, the whole thing is, it's your identity, and how your identity and how you deal with your loss of identity or your identity getting chipped away can actually be one of the hardest things that people deal with. People talk about being fired from a job as being a death, but being stigmatized publicly like that quickly, is okay. So let's put it this way: you're down the well hole. Now let's bring up the Friday audience. The next thing I would say is, and this is just for me, when I was at death's door, and I was at death's door, this was one of the, you feel horrible. You feel like you pushed your whole family out in front of the bus after it happens. And the other thing I want to say here is, my heart was breaking for my students. I absolutely felt horrible for the school. I felt horrible for my students. I love what I do as teaching. I still feel that I teach now with this, but I miss teaching, and I also had a wonderful rowing team as a crew coach, and I missed all those experiences. But I knew they would be okay. I knew I had to take care of things, and everything would be fine. Mm-hmm. But now, remember I told you before about those 2 dogs?
Yes.
So my wife was doing everything she could, but I was very dark at first when this happened, because I felt there was just nothing I could do to make it right. And in the beginning, that desire to do something is oftentimes when people can also take advantage of you, and you do something wrong, by just, grabbing the nearest microphone and screaming sour grapes, and why did this happen to me, and why are you thinking I didn't do anything? Whatever the argument's going to be, it's not going to satisfy at that point what's going on. So the best thing was a Chihuahua hopped in my chest and needed to go for a walk repeatedly. Mm-hmm. And during those walks, I started to find the fact that I wasn't teaching. The one thing that I missed more than anything else probably was teaching poetry. I started writing poetry. I first wrote first I wrote down my whole life story just to make sure I remembered everything that had happened and how it felt, and that's tucked away still someplace safe. But I wrote my whole entire life, and then after that, when I got done with that experience, I said I had these ideas coming in almost like planes landing at a busy airport, the way you see the lights at night lining up. Uh-huh. And they were poems. And I started writing, and literally now just about a year ago, Valentine's Day, I signed my first publishing contract with Antrim House Books. The publisher is the poet laureate of Connecticut, Rennie McQuilkin, and he offered me a publishing contract. My first poetry book is titled My Riastrad. Now, that's a Gaelic word. Don't be scared, ladies. But, it's a real honor, because I started writing that about what the experience was like after I'd written my life down. So it's a bunch of sections that are more like emotional realities. But the journey, I don't know at this point I had no idea what it was going to be like when this happened, but I had no but I can't think of a more powerful way to express what I had been through, and the hope and finding my community and where, my creativity is now going, than the ability to write that collection of poetry. It was a real honor. But then again, you have a mainstream publisher like Antrim House saying, this is again the opposite of, if you will, stigma, because Antrim House, Rennie said, yes, I want you as one of my poets, and I would love to publish your debut collection. And that was just huge for me. He's
that's
a
awesome.
mainstream publisher that said, I get what you've been through, and he wrote the press release and everything for me that is so loving, so wonderful. And he's a poet as well. He's going to be reading, here's a plug, he's going to be reading on the night of one of my other shows coming up, so we're going to get him on. I got to get you guys on my show as well. But he's going to be reading with, I'm trying to blank, Richard Blanco, in Connecticut. This is amazing. Is one of the he is an inaugural poet.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, the fact that poetry can heal so much, the fact that poetry can communicate so many of these emotional realities to people, regardless of your orientation. If it becomes an emotional pill, as I say, and it does its job and it brings you to that other place, I realized that what was going on was my creativity, not being in a classroom, not teaching poetry, was stifled in some way, and out walking my dogs still having that energy in me. They made me get out from sitting, let's say, from being paralyzed. And the next thing I felt, this expression kind of start bubbling up inside of me. So I started giving care for something else, and then I found my expression. Along the way, I had great support from my family, my wife most of all. And when it was time to, that was pretty scary, sending the first poems out, to get ready for, horrible rejections, or, we don't think what you've been through in terms of, this is too salacious, whatever. And then, boom, on Valentine's Day, Rennie sends me this contract, lovingly getting it, really wanting it, was just, it was a huge, huge acknowledgement that what I had been through and what we were doing afterwards was truly trying to make something good of the experience.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, we're reading your book, and it is beautiful, by the way.
We really love it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
It is
I'm
great.
glad you got it. And you're reading it. I'm glad you got it, but you said you're reading it. And I know you guys are honest, so that's
Yes.
really
Yep,
Absolutely.
we're loving
Take your
it.
time and enjoy.
We
Take
are.
your time and enjoy.
Tell me one last thing.
Sure.
Tell me what is the most annoying thing you have heard in regards to bisexuality.
The most annoying thing.
And then I want to know the best thing you've heard about bisexuality.
Well, okay, good. Here's what I'm going to say. The thing that bugs me, and it's just a personal thing about bisexuality, and I understand it, I'm not trying to knock on anything, is I personally don't hear it as a binary term that means you can only be attracted to men and women. I don't hear it as excluding the whole. I understand there is within the community maybe a certain. People don't want to assume the bisexual label because they feel it is too limiting. Again, for me, the bisexual label is the fact that you're able to be fluid, or you're able to, look at the Kinsey scale and find yourself, somewhere that isn't binary. So for me, that's it. It's not so much annoying. It's just something that I want to put out there, because for me, maybe I'm old-fashioned, and maybe someday it will go a different way. But for me, it's not really a limiting term. It's actually a freeing term, and I find that quite lovely. So just put it out there. But also, I will say this. I've now been invited twice to the White House.
Uh-huh.
I'm so proud.
You should be.
Politics aside, I am so proud and so happy.
You should be. You
that our
really
current
should be.
president used the word bisexual and used it out and said it out loud.
Right.
Because you have to understand, the first president to ever say the word bisexual out loud is our current president, which for me means, my community has been acknowledged, and that's
right.
a really powerful thing when you go there and you see that there are many. I mean, I'm still working on the on a working committee with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to help build trauma-informed communities through interfaith congregations. So there's a lot of good work that still has to. So that's what I mean, and what I do as a bisexual leader, as a stigma survivor, is how we keep those conversations going. So I would say the fact that the word bisexual has been used in the White House makes me so proud. The fact that the word bisexual may feel too limiting to others, it doesn't bother me. I'm not really annoyed by it. And I think that's good, because those are probably tomorrow's leaders. So good on you. Keep the conversation going.
Right,
if something
absolutely.
doesn't feel comfortable as a label, get out there, write something wonderful about it. I would much rather have conversations and dialogue than fist fights and, violence.
Right. Absolutely. And, what I have also, I've actually read this. There was someone that put a tweet, or you liked it or something on Twitter, but the quote was, when we suppress what feels natural to us, it makes us feel worse, right? Makes us feel really bad. So what I'm going to ask you is, if there's someone out there right now who has been outed for being bisexual,
Right.
and they're feeling, they're in a dark place and they don't know what to do, what would be your suggestion for them?
First of all, you're a human being who has a full character, range of emotions. Don't let any label take away and make you feel stigmatized. Because there's a grave danger when it first starts. Anyone that is stigmatized, again, ostracized from their community or family, to suddenly feel, well, there is something wrong with me because I'm bisexual.
Right.
All right? This horrible feeling that you're wrong or there's nothing wrong with you. Okay? Finding your community can take time. First of all, the most important thing is to do no harm to yourself while you're on that journey. And whether that is, you can go on, by the way, on resources on my site, and you can see some resources right there. There are, if it's the Good Samaritan line or, whatever it is, there are lines there so that you don't harm yourself. But then after that, and I've heard this many times, there is sometimes a lonely path, let's say, where then people, after you're initially, say, outed, there are those that are going to be with you, there's those that aren't going to be with you, and sometimes trying to educate others can take time, whatever it's going to be. But after that, say, initial shock is there, that next journey oftentimes can be very lonely. That's when you want to have good information.
Right.
Let's face it, there's so much out there that you need to check on. That's the time when you want to find out, read. There's a reason why, as a board member, I'm so proud that the Bisexual Resource Center published Recognize. It's an anthology of men's voices in the bisexual community. It was actually a number of letters were sent in. Robin Oakes is a wonderful bisexual leader, and she curates the Bi Women's Quarterly newsletter. But I think, I could be wrong, but I think she was getting things from bisexual men, and then her and Dr. Hercudi, another wonderful bisexual leader, they got together and edited, and the Bisexual Resource Center published this anthology. And that, again, is a place where, take a look at it. Find the voices, because there are people doing good things, just like you guys said tonight. If you don't know about it and people are casting you out, making you feel less than you are, that's just stigma.
Right.
You're more than that.
Right.
You're more than that. But you need examples, you need help, you need the voices. We're here. Reach out to people who want to help, not people who want to make you fit into their box. That's not good for you.
Oh, okay. Normally we ask, and I'd love to ask you for one final overall thought that you would want to leave with everybody, actually.
Well, I think on this Friday night, because you guys are wonderful, we talked a lot, and this has really, really been fun. I think tonight, the thing I would say is figure out the next thing you can do to open your mind a little bit more. And whatever it is that you learn, if it's about something in society, within your community, that opens up your mind a little bit more, you just improved your community. How many people wake up every day and say, I want to live in a worse community or a more unfriendly community?
Right.
So we're surrounded by data, but search through it and find the information and use the information to weave some knowledge. And if that is about having a conversation like you ladies are so brilliantly doing, download this podcast, listen, and then go out and learn something about something you don't know, especially in your community. The end result, the conversation you have, I'm not saying it's going to save a life right away, but at the end, opening a mind makes a better community. A better, safer community that has these conversations and looks out for each other is one I want to be in, I want to live in, I want to be a neighbor in and succeed. That's what's important. Keep your mind open. Go learn something.
Right.
Absolutely. Kevin, it's been a joy to have you on our show tonight, and for all of our listeners. We do hope that you will return and do something else for us to have some more conversations. It's been great.
Be my honor. Be my honor.
My final thought, Kevin, and this is not, I can't take credit for this, but I did read this and thought it was wonderful. So you may choose to see bisexuality as a defect, but I believe it is a gift, the gift to love someone for who they are, regardless of gender. So when did love become a bad thing? Bisexuals are confused only as to why people judge, label, and fetishize them without even educating themselves as to what bisexuality is.
We love that, and we love that you joined us.
Yep. So we're thrilled, Kevin, and I can't wait to talk to you again, have you back on the show, because we covered about a page and a half.
That's about
Put them in the safe folder. Put them in the safe folder, dear. It'll be my pleasure. That, again, the time flies by, so you guys are doing a wonderful, I just totally enjoyed that, thoroughly enjoyed it. So we just started a conversation. I look forward to keeping it going, and I can't wait to listen to your show more. And again, I want to have you guys on Healing Stigma on Left or Straight. I love what you're doing. I want to talk and pick apart, as when it's right for you guys. I want to find out what it is that you're, learning along the way. I want to pick you guys apart because you are just such interesting, lovely ladies. So thank you, and I totally look forward to the next time.
Just let us know. We'll do anything for you.
We really will. And we enjoyed the time spent with you today, and we will definitely be in touch. Please tell your wife that we said hello.
Hi, Naomi.
Absolutely, will do. She'll hear it.
All right, guys, so that's the end of our show tonight. And before we go, I want to say, baby, I love you.
I love you more.
See you guys next time.
That's the end of our show. Don't you dare leave without going to iTunes to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Ciao, baby.